Hello everybody, welcome back to Graceful Embroidery. Today we're going to do something very exciting. We're going to look at the final 3 stitch outs of the Jacobean Sampler Tree of Life. Jacobean embroidery is absolutely fascinating. I love it, and it's been a sheer delight to create these designs in the Jacobean Sampler collection. And the final set is the Tree of Life, which is a very common type of embroidery theme in Jacobean embroidery. It's not a quick project to stitch out, but I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. And at the moment, I'm just in the process of stitching out the final tree. Now, this is the simpler version of the tree, and it's been split into 3, but one of those stitch outs requires a 300 by 200 hoop, and the other 2 will stitch out in a smaller, like 240 by 150. So I've split the first one, and today on my machine I've got to the final stage. I went right back to the beginning as if I only had a 240 by 50 hoop, and so I have done 3 placements. And one thing I would say, although this is a big project and you won't be able to do it in a little while, it probably is about 5 or 6 hours worth of embroidering with all the thread changes. But you're not sat around doing nothing, because some of them are only 50 to 200 stitches. So you've only just taken the thread off and put it away and got the next one, and there's another thread change. So you get through it quite quickly. Now, as well as my outline alignment stitches, I've added something else. I've added a few little markers, and some stitch out at the beginning of the design and some stitch out at the end. And these just allow you to poke a pin through and align them, because you stitch them out on the stabilizer. I advise that obviously it's sheer delight if you've got the big 360 by 260 hoop, you can just stitch it all out. But if you haven't and you've got to do it in smaller hoopings, then please just hoop up the stabilizer, put another layer on of fragments. I usually use 2 that are offcuts from each side of previous embroideries, and the first 2 or 3 stitch out colours will show you the guidelines. It will show you the guidelines from the previous design and the one that you're just going to do. When I've stitched out the outline alignment stitches and I'm all ready, I take the hoop off the machine and I put it on my June Taylor board, and I get 2 little pins, because each section has 2 little points that you've got to align. If it was only one, you'd only have the x-axis, and you wouldn't have, because obviously you can twist it. So it's most important that you have 2 areas where you actually pinpoint exactly. So you stick a pin through the point on the fabric, which was put on there in the previous stitch out at the end, and you poke it through and put it on the pin, on the little mark on the stabilizer, and then you move across and do it on the other one, and then your fabric is absolutely, it can't move. And if you fold over bits, and I'm going to put, as you're looking at this, hopefully I'm putting up little photos and you can see what I've done. You can fold it back and check the alignment, and you will see your edgings match up perfectly to the outline alignment stitch. And the final stitch out obviously is the most important, and I double checked and triple checked. I even held it up against the window backwards so that I could see where the outline came, because you've got 3 or 4 branches that you don't want a gap between them and the main trunk of the tree. So it's most important, and I'm actually going to just extend those branches, make them just a little bit longer, so that if there is any little discrepancy, you won't have a gap. So I'm going to go over now to my machine and show you how I've aligned up. And one final test. I've looked, I've double checked, but I really want this because there's probably 4 or 5 hours worth of work here. I mean, when you do it in 4 stages, then you're going to have even more than the normal 82 colour changes. You're going to have more colour changes because you're doing it in sections. So I don't want to ruin all that work. So I really want to make sure before I stitch it out that it's in the right place. And what I've done, I've taken the embroidery through to the 44th colour. And now this is on JCB number 6, and it's 3C. C is the final section. You've got A and B to stitch out, and then if you've only got the 240 hoop, then you have A1 and A2, if that makes sense. When you look at all the files, you'll see what I mean. So let's go over to my my Epic 2 now and see exactly what I mean by moving forward through the stitches to colourway number 44, just to make sure everything is correct. Right, here we are at the Epic, and you can see that I've got the fabric hooped up. This is the Husqvarna 240 by 150 hoop, and it's stabilised with 2 layers of stitch and tear. And then this is this beautiful silk called Knoll. It's a raw silk, and you can get it, I don't know where you can get it in America, but you can certainly get it from Silk Route, which is a UK company. And there's a link, there'll be a link in several places there. It's on my frequently asked questions page as well at Graceful Embroidery. Hilary supplies this. It's about £15 a metre, so it's probably about $20. I've just done that arithmetic in my head, and I'm sorry if I've got it the wrong way around. But it's beautiful stuff. It really is. The only thing I haven't done is test to see how it washes, which I will be doing. Anyway, let's zoom in and look at this embroidery. Here you can see the 2 little markers, one there and one there, and I've actually just done the box of basting stitches to hold it in place. And if you look very carefully here, you can see the outline of the design that we're going to stitch out. And I've held this up against the window, back and front, and had a good look at it. And at the top here, we've actually got another section which was left from this one, and it all does look quite well. But I'm moving my needle. Let's just drop this. I'm actually on stitch number 44, which is the right hand side of the main trunk. And what I'm doing is I'm just moving it through the stitch out here when it goes over these branches, and just making sure. Now if I zoom right in on my machine, this is the lovely thing about the Epic, you can pinch out and get really close. I'm sorry if that's not showing very well. Now that stitch I know is on the outside of the trunk, so let's move it. It's actually not doing the, there we are, that's the, let's go back over here, and you can see that is well within that trunk. But I want to have a look at this branch up here, so I'll raise the needle. You can't, I'm not sure about other machines, but certainly with this machine you can't move it forward when the needle has to be up. In fact, if you try it, it'll send up an error message. Now we're coming up to this branch, and I was looking at this today, and I think now I need to extend this branch just a little bit further so that it isn't so tight. Not too bad. Just move the now that, oops, go back one. That is an outside one, yeah. So there we can see it. It catches it there. So hopefully, because I've seen this problem, I'm going to extend all these branches and make them just a little bit longer so that they're well underneath the main trunk of the machine. Well, I really can't think of anything else to do to make sure that this will stitch out correctly. and that it's accurately placed. I know this Epic too has all the placement gizmos, and I could use those, but I like to do it this way, just obviously to check my designs and so that I can give you a very detailed step of instructions in the PDF to do this. So here we are, we've got this design. It's 27,000 stitches. It will take me a few hours to do because I've got the dinner to cook and a few other things to do. And then the important thing is, when you've gone up to number 44, is to go back to the beginning. And the first stitch is that one there. I hope you found that helpful, and I'll be showing you in all the 3 trees when I see you next time. I hope you found that useful. It's important not to rush this project. Please don't rush it, but please also don't be put off. Don't think, oh, that's just too much. You'll get such a thrill when you complete your tree, even if you only do it in a smaller hoop, a medium-sized hoop. It is beautiful, and sometimes we have to push ourselves to. There we are. You can see a little bit more of the detail there, of the tops of the left-hand side, and the tree, of the left-hand side and the top. But it is. We always need to be stretching ourselves, and we get so much satisfaction when we do. So I'll be back later on when this is finished. I hope this video has helped you and inspired you to take the plunge and stitch out the Tree of Life. You'll have great fun doing it. You'll love watching all the colours blending together to make a vibrant embroidery that you can be proud of. I suggest that you embroider this for a cushion. It could also go on a nice bag, or better still, make a wall hanging. And in the PDF, when you buy this, you'll see that I've put one example in there. I've taken borders and corners from other design sets within the collection and surrounded them, used them as a frame to highlight the tree, making sure I also put some of the deer stags in place as well. So there's an idea there for you to make a lovely wall hanging. This is to be cherished, and I think you'll really enjoy stitching out on the Knoll silk that I recommend. I hand washed it and it looked great. There was hardly any shrinkage at all. I'm just going to iron that little piece that I did and show you how it looks, because ordinary silk dupion I never wash because it looks creased and stressed afterwards, even washing it by hand. So I never recommend silk dupion being washed, but yeah, you can get away with it, and it's so forgiving. It's beautiful fabric. Shame it doesn't come in colours, but never mind. Ivory natural colour is wonderful for showing off your embroidery. So let's go over and look at the trees, and let me show you how my little piece that I hand washed. It looked a bit stressed. I was looking at it just before I made this video, and I thought, I know why it looks like that, because it's not been ironed. Now this piece was 5 by 6. So let's pop that over here. There we are. There's the 5 inches. There's the 6. Just marginal. Ooh, look at my horrible June Taylor. Now I need to get my new one out. So as you can see, it's just slight marginal shrinkage, but then you would never use this silk for embroidery if you were going to wash it without washing it beforehand. I always say any fabric that you are going to put in the washing machine, you need to wash it, dry it, and steam it. Do all the things that you would perhaps do to it after it was embroidered, and then you can get away with it, and you know that all the damage has been done to it before you embroider. So here are my 3 trees.
This was the first one the original one that I designed. This one was stitched out in the 360 by 260 hoop. I am just really pleased with how all the colours have blended together. I mean, apart from my antique sewing machine, I don't think I've ever used so many colours, but they've been carefully chosen. And in parts of the elements, like here on these sort of paisley flowers, there are two colours in here. There is an awful lot of blending. Also on these scrolls here, we've got green and blue. So if you're going to change the colours, be very, very careful. Do it in your software, because you may not be aware that you're changing a colour that's going to be the overlay on something else, and you don't want stitches like this not to stand out. So that was the first tree. And then I thought, well, let's move that down a bit. Let's put animals and birds feature heavily in Jacobean embroidery. So I put this bird on this branch here. I thought one bird was sufficient. And this one also was stitched out in one hooping. Now this is the simple version. This is the simple version of the tree. Got a little bit of fluff here from the backs of the other trees. This was stitched out in 4 hoopings. First of all, this area here, then the sort of orangey segments a bit up there, and then this section here, and then lastly everything to the right of this branch. And this branch will actually fit in a 240 hoop. Let's scroll in, and as you can see, as I explained in my video beforehand, all these trunks sit underneath this, all these branches sit underneath this trunk. And it was quite fun to do, really. Lots of colour changes, but as I pointed out before, you load up a colour and it probably is done in 2 or 3 minutes, and you need to work out a system to prevent errors happening, because the longer an embroidery is, I find the more you are inclined to make mistakes. So what I tend to do, I have 2 spool holders on my epic, and when I thread up one colour, I put the colour next to it on the adjoining spool, and then along the front of my desk I have probably the next 8 or 9 colours all lined up. And finally, just before I thread up, I do check that I've got the right colour. Mistakes happen, and I always find sort of when you go into beyond 50 colourways, you can get a bit weary and make mistakes. So those are my 3 trees. I hope you have fun stitching these out, making something special with them. And I've made the PDF that accompanies these trees. It's 52 pages long, gives you lots of information and ideas and tips and tricks to get these successfully aligned if you haven't got the big hoop. And take up the challenge, take up the Jacobean Tree of Life challenge, as I did with this. And when you've completed something like this, and you've seen that you can align designs perfectly, then you'll have the courage to attempt other challenges in your machine embroidery experience. So create a work of art today, make something beautiful to be treasured, and I would recommend this silk. It's just absolutely adorable. One day perhaps I should find out whether I can dye it, but that was saved for another day. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe and also the little bell. If you haven't hit the bell, you won't receive notifications for every new video that is put on this YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your comments, your ideas, things you'd like to do with this embroidery when it's stitched out. Inspire others and challenge others. In the coming week, I have a special offer on at Graceful Embroidery. Everything on the website has been reduced by 50%, so I do hope you'll call by and have a look. This design set is being released today, and it's $24 for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it will go to its full price of $32. So snap it up while it's there, and I hope that you enjoy the challenge of hooping up a Jacobean tree. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.